Welcome to Chromatic Roses, where a couple of Midwest women cultivate a community at the D&D table. I'm Caitie.
And I'm Soren. And this week in the Rose Garden, we are answering more of your questions. Yep. That's right. It's an episode of Ask the Roses, where we cozy up, we grab a bevy, and we go through a list of questions that y'all have submitted. Mm-hmm. And we answer them.
And we
honestly.
answer them.
And we answer them.
So today, last time we did this, we had 4 buckets. We had mindset, mechanic, interpersonal, and character-driven. Today, we are picking from 2 of those buckets, not all 4. We're going to talk about some mechanic questions and some character-driven questions. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 mechanic questions today and more character-driven questions. So we're going to do the mechanic questions first. Once we go through those, we'll do a little roll with it, and then we'll come back and we'll answer the character-driven ones and hit some rapid fires on the way out. So, without further ado, how much should you worry about the consistency of magic when spinning a fantasy tale collaboratively? So, in different worlds, fantasy worlds, magic has different rules, right? Yes. So this question is talking about those rules and how important those rules are when you're making a make-believe story.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't want to answer simply like, it depends. But I mean, it does. So there's some elements where I think it matters in terms to if there's no consistency, if there's like no holds barred, is that how you say that? No holds barred for like what you can do with magic. That's like, that can be a bit chaotic, and that can end up being boring. You know, I think there are several episodes where we talk about like some structure is helpful. Some structure helps everyone understand their role. So I think if there are no limitations on magic, there might be a little bit of a struggle with like, okay, so what can I do? But if there are too many on magic, then it's like, okay, I can't do anything. So I think it's a lovely answer of balance. And then also there's like of course there's a third option, like play by the rule of cool. Like if everyone's cool with it and everyone is on board with certain things working and others not, and it's not hurting anybody, then I think it doesn't have to necessarily be consistent across the board.
So the things that I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of consistency of magic is for D&D 5e, there are verbal components, somatic components, material components. Those are all magic rules. There's also like spell slots is a rule for magic in D&D. And so I'm thinking about those things. Number 1, in our campaign, we've let go of material components. So you don't have to have cinnamon sticks and
feathers,
string to be able to cast a spell. Now, I do believe that you have to have diamonds for revivify. So like they're like those really important big spells that are like literal game changers. We have rules around that. And then the other side of this is the verbal somatic components, right? So that turns into game breakers where if you ignore verbal somatic components, then things like if a bad guy uses silence on the party and silences it, but then we ignore on the spell card that there's a verbal component and we cast a spell, then why did we cast silence? You know what I mean? Like there are some like through lines that get broken there. The other thing I'm thinking about is if I'm not in combat, sometimes spell slots become
willy-nilly.
Just don't talk about it. You know what I mean? Like I maybe have 2 fourth level spell slots, but I want to use confusion or, dispel magic, but I'm not in combat. So I'm just not gonna.
So spell slots don't exist.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is there are like rules in the universe of how magic works, what it can and cannot do, things like that. But then there's also just like mechanical game rules about how magic works.
Yeah.
And how much should you worry about the consistency of magic when spinning a fantasy tale collaboratively? So I would say that if, for instance, in our campaign, we've let go of material components, but we still honor verbal somatic components, then out of combat, just like anytime somebody's using magic in the world, verbal and somatic components exist. So if you say you're going to cast a spell that has a verbal component, you will be making noise to say that thing. If you're going to do a spell that has a somatic component, you have to move your body in some way to make that exist.
Right.
And that rule should be consistent in and out of combat throughout the entire story.
Yeah.
As far as spell slots go, it's a resource management thing, right? So the idea is that if I cast a spell magic willy-nilly, I lose my fourth level spell slots. And then, we're in a combat scenario and I cast a spell magic willy-nilly, so I have no more fourth level spell slots. And that puts me in a bad spot for this
Now I'm in a pickle.
But I think it's okay to rule of cool out of combat spell usage.
Yeah, I think I'm
so that
with
you're
that
not hosed in a combat scenario because you chose to use charm person on the shopkeeper to get a discount.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that like this is where the depends can come in.
Yeah.
It depends on your table for sure. So like our table jives with that for the most part. And there maybe are some more hardcore tables that are like, no, dude, your spell slots are your spell slots. Get over it. And that's okay. Right. I've played in games like that too. So
right.
totally okay.
Yeah.
I
think rule of cool is something that should be considered in general, but when you are playing collaboratively, the idea is that we are telling a story that makes sense. So if it breaks some sort of universal rule like verbal or somatic components, I think that is where it there's a line. For me, that's where the line is. If it is breaking some sort of universal rule. If it is like, so if a player presents a use of a spell that is twisting the language of the spell to make it do something a little bit different, like I'm going to use Thunder Wave to knock over a tree. I don't know. That's not that creative of a use. But like if you're like twisting the use of a spell to be able to do something cool.
Yeah.
I think that is a rule of cool scenario that is up to the DM's prerogative as to whether it is within reason or not.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, most DMs are like, that was a cool use of that spell.
That was really silly.
Yeah.
I like that.
Go for it. Try it. So yeah, I think consistency of magic, it is about whether it breaks universal, and by universal I mean
laws.
Like the world building rules.
Yeah. Right.
And things like resource management, especially when, like for us, we're not playing but once a month often. And so like, we had a planning meeting last night for our session on Sunday. And like, I even asked, like, I have not healed. Is that correct? Like that kind of a thing. Like I understand like resource management kind of getting blurred
Hmm.
for the sake of interesting storytelling. I'm a spellcaster. I want to be able to cast spells when I'm not in combat, and I don't want to have to always hold those spell slots in case we run into something.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there is a niche question like that, like if we didn't hit a part of that consistency of magic the way question asker you had intended, give us another one. Follow up.
Yeah. Like follow-up question.
Follow-up question. Yeah. Because I think there's like lots of facets of the
Mhm.
consistency of magic.
Yeah.
So yeah, follow up with something if you feel like we missed a part of that. Next question.
Next question.
How do I plan my turn?
Very carefully. So
Mhm.
truly, not maybe not very carefully. It
Okay.
depends on the
Oh,
combat
okay.
scenario, right? But while your other party members are on their turn,
Yeah.
definitely use your time wisely. I usually, when I'm planning my turn, I am trying my best to look through every possible avenue available to me. I'm
Mhm.
kind of assessing what kind of terrain are we in, which party members am I closest to, do I, and like with that, do I need to move towards them, away from them? Do I need to hide? In particular, I play a rogue, so like, do I need to go find cover so that I can hit them from around the cover? I'm looking at spell lists. I'm sure Caitie is super jazzed to tell you about how she plans her turns.
uh I mean, yes. Yeah, so we did an episode about my flow chart not too long ago. So I like to use that as a way to
Mm-hmm.
filter out information.
Right.
Um, one of the things that TJ has done for our group is he has a whole tactical tips with Teedge document that talks about strategy in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario.
Right.
So things that I referenced this already. We literally met last night as most of our group anyway, to go through some like combat strategy because we're about to come up on a combat that is going to be challenging. And one of the things that he did was read the book Live to Tell the Tale by Keith Ammann.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so he read that and then took what he learned and applied it to our party. It feels like a million years ago.
It's at
Um,
least two.
yeah. And so he like took our party, which at the time included Valen and Prim, and like helped put us in category buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And that category bucket helps us know like what our job is in a combat scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, in that scenario, there was a front line, which means there's strength and constitution important characters. So that's Valen, and at the time was sort of Orin. Shock attackers, which are good at strength and dex, or just dex, which was Orin, Lura, and Valen. They're going to identify key enemies, eliminate them quickly, doing large bursts of damage. They get in, they get out, like that kind of a scenario. There are
Mm-hmm.
skirmishers who are Dex and Con. That's Aaron, Orin, Gwen, and Kiri. Skirmishers are ranged and finesse weapon melee fighters, durable but also highly mobile, who wear their opponents down by dealing modest but consistent damage over time. Marksman, which is Dex and Wisdom, that's Gwen and a little bit Kiri. Unless they're shock attackers wielding finesse weapons, characters without high strength or high con should stay out of melee and behind cover as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then supporters, mental abilities, so wisdom, intelligence, charisma, and maybe some constitution. So like that was Prim, for instance. Spellcasters who have the hit points to wade into battle are in a good position to provide healing and cast shorter range concentration required spells that strengthen their allies or weaken their enemies. Spell slingers, so that's like Aaron, Laura falls into this. Mental ability plus dex, so wizards, sorcerers with smaller hit dice and a lack of armor proficiency indicate that, like marksmen, they should stay out of melee and behind cover, so they should stay back.
Yeah.
So I'm saying all of that to say that I would plan my turn based on what my role is. So right now, playing Tisiphone, I am a sorcerer with very small hit dice and at my base an 11 armor class. Ouch. I'm going to stay in the back of the battlefield and behind cover as much as possible. And I'm going to be doing long range damage from across the battlefield. And so as the battle's happening, I'm using my flowchart to filter through information and looking at the battlefield to say, okay, as a sorcerer, I don't have any healing, so that's not my job. My job is to help down enemies and control enemies. I have a couple of buffing spells, but not a lot. So my role is really to like get people to die fast. So I need to make sure that I'm protected and not in melee range of characters. So I need to GTFO if somebody's in front of me. And counter spell is going to be a big one. That's like my job. So anyway, I would try to find what my role is. And my job when planning my turn is to fulfill that role in one way or another. So it depends on what character you are, what like role you are, but talking to each other, saying like, okay, what are we doing? We now over 3 campaigns have always had a separate message apart from the DM, like a Facebook message or something like that, where we can quietly discuss strategy without making it obvious. I'm saying that and realizing that that might feel a little metagamey, because like obviously that can't happen in reality. Like if our characters were talking to each other, they'd be talking out loud. What I'm going to say about that is this is just a game. This is just a game. So
it's a rule of cool thing.
If you feel like metagaming and talking about your turn to your fellow players in a quiet message without the DM is metagaming, that's your business. But at our table, it helps us make sense of combat and make sure that we're helping each other and using our skills to the best that we can.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of players who are like, combat is not their favorite thing, but they'll still do it because we're playing this game together. So the more that we utilize that chat, the more like confident we can feel as like a unit, as a team. And then, yeah.
So
we
you
use
should
it as a tool.
Yeah, you should do whatever is right for your table. And if you don't like the fact that we have a secret message, you can shove it. But yeah, so we talk to each other a lot. When we're about to have a big combat, like we're about to have tomorrow, we have now made a habit a couple of different times of getting together and talking about our abilities. And Emily was here last night when we were talking about all of this when we met on Discord. And I asked her, I was like, did you learn anything new from that? And the answer for both of us, I think, was no. But what it did give was body doubling time to focus on specifically our character sheet. And then ask questions and talk to each other about stuff that we probably already kind of had a handle on, but it's now at the top of our brain. We've bumped it up to the top and had like dedicated time to consider it. Yeah. So my 2 pieces of advice when planning your turn is please have looked at your character sheet before you came to the session or at the start of the session before things have really gotten started. Like take a second and like look at your stuff so you know what it is. And then know what your role is in the combat and fulfill your role to the best of your ability, whether that's damage or buffing or healing or whatever that is.
Yeah, and I think getting comfortable with that's something that like I'm trying to get better and better at myself, like while playing D&D, is getting to know your role and getting to know how it functions. Like how does your puzzle piece fit into the larger picture of combat, and do your job to the best of your ability. And that looks different for every player.
I mean, there's a very public version of a cleric not really being a cleric. Jester Lavore is not always good at healing her friends, but she's there. She's got her spiritual weapon out and she's hitting people. So like I say that, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, play your character how you want to play your character. But if you are looking to be like, I want to be my sorcerer as best I can, or I am overwhelmed by combat and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing, and I get overwhelmed by choice. Great way to sift through that is to kind of know where you fit and then act on that. And communicate while you're in combat, communicate. And this is probably easier said than done, but in fact, I know it's easier said than done. Try to like keep overwhelm at bay. Remember that this is just a game. This is just a game. This is just a game. And so like stuff isn't always going to work out. Your dice are going to work against you sometimes. And this really cool plan you had is going to go awry. And like, that's okay.
Yeah. And something that plagued me a lot, this is becoming a bigger conversation than just how to play in your turn. But when I first started playing, I really I would feel really let down, or like really not like disappointed, but on the edge of disappointed with myself if one of my turns like didn't go off like the way I had envisioned it or like hoped it would. So like, plan your turn. Please remember that not everybody is supposed to be like the finishing move character, and that like everybody, if you're playing with a group of friends and a DM who is like who you enjoy, like everyone should have a chance to shine, sure, but don't feel bad if your turn doesn't go right, because that's part of the stakes of the game. It's not always going to go right.
And is it frustrating when it doesn't go right? Dog. In my first campaign, it was like one of the last battles, if not the last battle, I had tried to cast stone skin or something to stone, I forget. And it was like, it was going to be really cool. And it perfectly makes sense. It was the exact right spell that I should cast at that moment. And then it didn't work. And I got so mad. I was just like, man, fuck this. I would say the same thing too. We talked about this in our session yesterday of just like, especially we're high level characters right now. And so the combat we're about to face is going to be hard on purpose because we're high level characters. And one of the things I said last night, and it was a reminder to myself more than anyone else, but it's just like, people are going to go down. And like, that's okay. It's okay. It's just a game. It's okay. We get them back up when we can and keep on keeping on.
Yeah, I think you literally use the phrase like, don't panic.
Don't panic. It's okay.
You might feel like you want to panic, but it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Just I know we all care about it, which is why we have emotions about it, which like makes a ton of sense. Both like the overwhelm and the like, oh no, my friend's character is down, and like,
I couldn't do the thing that I totally could have done if I had rolled right. That's the whole premise of the game.
Totally get it.
That's the whole stakes of the game.
Watch for bleed, please, and thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's enough of that.
Nice.
Well, next is we're going to roll with it. Because that was our last mechanic question.
Sweet.
So we're rolling with it on the icebreaker table today. Yeah, careful. Falling ice. 14. Off the top of your head, if you could take any fictional character to dinner, who would it be and why? Okay, am I seducing them or is this for friendship?
Should I get TJ in here? Boy.
Because
Clarification.
I probably have two different answers.
Tell us both.
Okay, well now I have to think about it and make sure that I mean
Making
what
sure
I say.
that I am aligning with me.
Yeah.
That me and
any fictional character that I could take to dinner.
Take to dinner. I will also answer 2 because you are.
Okay. If you have one that comes to mind, just go ahead and say it.
I'm working on it.
Okay. I have a lot, I think. Is the thing.
I'm trying to sift through the list.
Right. We just did a bunch of stuff about aesthetics and looking at different characters in media. So I think platonically, I'd like to take Buffy to dinner and
That's
just
great.
chat.
Yeah.
Non-platonically?
Like I have a goal in mind.
Like we're trying to get somewhere. Spike?
Yeah, I figured you were gonna say that one first.
So also Buffy's kind of just on the brain at this moment, so forgive me for that. But
No.
Giles crossed the mind there. Both maybe for both categories.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I said on the internet.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
I would like to take... I'm looking around as if I'm going to see something that's going to help me.
Something, please, God, help me.
Make another decision.
Help. Ooh,
we watched the latest episode of Severance last night. I'd like to take Mark Scout out for dinner. That guy is going through it. And that's just sympathy. I just want to buy him a meal, you know?
Let me buy you a meal. Oh my gosh.
It's just... I don't think this was supposed to be a stumper.
This is for you, TJ.
What's the first one that came to mind when this question got asked? You were like, oh.
Garnet?
Okay, yeah, that's...
Yeah. I would love
lit.
to take Garnet out.
Yeah.
Honestly, platonically or not.
Sure. The same kind of for Buffy, but what can you say?
I would also take out... I would love to go to a meal to pick to pick the brain of Echo from League of Legends.
Okay.
Specifically
Sure.
Echo from Arcane.
Okay.
He's such an interesting character.
Sure.
This is platonic, just interested, and he's so cool and he's so smart.
Yeah.
And I just love his character design. So I would love to just pick his brain about how it works.
His character design?
No, him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a non-platonic dinner? Because I said Spike and Giles pretty emphatically, and I would
You did. Give me a minute. I can do this. Hold on, I can do this.
First hot character that pops into your mind, go.
Yeah, I'll take Inuyasha to dinner.
Okay.
Hunter came up. But the thing is, I've watched so much of the show that I'm like, it wouldn't be entertaining. He'd be a butthole. Tita, this is a bad question for me. I'm also looking around.
She's got too many friends, man. She can't pick. How is she supposed to pick which friend to take to dinner? TJ
literally has a rule that I'm only allowed to say it's my favorite or they're my favorite. So only so often.
Sure.
I'm just flipping through.
I could maybe say more non-platonic dinners, but I feel like I've said my fill and I should probably stop.
I disagree. I think you should just let her rip.
It's probably fine.
She just pulls out a laundry list. Golly gee, I don't want to take out Harry Potter. I want to take out Daniel Radcliffe.
Sure.
That I want to take out Daniel Radcliffe. Hades from Lore Olympus.
Sure, yes.
I'll take him out to dinner, not platonically.
I will emphatically not platonically take you out to dinner.
Not platonically. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, that's enough of that.
All right.
back to it. How do you keep true to your own character while collaborating with other players to tell a cohesive story?
So many parts to that. How you keep true to your characters.
If
Working with
you
other people.
had to give someone, like, they have literally 5 minutes. I'm about to walk in the room. What's the like first thing? You're like, okay, well, if you do nothing else, do this.
Learn to yes and no and. I made it tiny. I mean succinct.
So keep true to your character by yes ands and no ands.
Yeah. So there's only so much that your character is going to say yes to, right?
Right.
So like learn what that perimeter is, learn what that boundary is, and then like determine if your character is going to stick with it or be a doormat, or like stay true to what you have planned.
Might I interest you, the
Yeah.
listener, your listener, in to Rose's role-playing reference guide? I think that would make this easier for you.
I agree with that.
So we've done, we did one whole episode that was just doing our own resources.
Yeah.
So go listen to that. But the Rose's role-playing reference guide is about establishing those kinds of boundaries and doing so in a way that you can quickly, it's a one-pager front and back. You can bring that with you to your sessions and use it to reference during the game. I think aside from that, my piece of advice would be to listen.
If you do nothing else.
Period. Listen. Because role-playing your character isn't always about saying shit all the time. Even if you're a very like talkative character, even if that is the vibe that you're putting out, staying true to your character while collaborating, listen to what's going on around you and give yourself time to like be silent, to be able to listen and consider how this fits in with the character you're playing. So it doesn't always have to be talking constantly. I think that's easier with a bigger party because there's like more stuff happening. But I think, if you can learn how to yes and no and finding those boundaries, using a resource like Rose's Roleplay and Reference Guide to help you reference those boundaries quickly in a session, and like listening to what's going on around you so that you can either slide in like your goals, or if the group is going in a direction that goes against a boundary or, like something like that, you can start to hear those moments where you can insert your character's stuff in there or respond to something that is happening.
Yeah.
Wow. That was succinct and like kind of well answered. So you're welcome. What's a piece of advice you'd give to players who want to bring more improv into their role playing? To me, all of role playing feels like improv. Do you disagree with that?
Not necessarily. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I would say like you might need to practice initiating scenes more often if you want to bring more role play into your D&D sessions.
Sure.
Because that's just going to up the percentage of how much time you get to spend doing that. I think the main advice that I would give is like get comfy practicing and get comfy initiating more often.
I am trash at initiating scenes. I like never do that. I am always in response to somebody else. And whoever initiates the scene, I'm like, yeah, dog, let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
I struggle so hard to like hear a thing happening and say like, ooh, this would be a scene. We should do this. out loud in the out loud.
Yeah, and
I struggle with that a lot.
I think I less am thinking, ooh, this could be a cool scene, and I more so am focused on like talking as my character with our other characters, and if there's a thread that we can continue, like I keep pulling it. So rather than like, maybe that's more so than getting better at initiating scenes, I would say get better at pulling the thread more.
And maybe
Like,
recognizing the thread to begin with,
yeah,
seeing the
yeah.
thread and then pulling the thread.
Look for like a hook to explore. You don't have to have a whole scene planned out in your head. Just like look for small moments that are worth continuing.
Also, like keeping an eye out for relationships that can be strengthened within the party. So like maybe that's, you can categorize that as a thread also and pulling on that thread, but it doesn't always have to be like a story beat per se. I will say, Justin Eisenbeis, I'm coming for you, because last night we determined that we have a lot of the same abilities. And that like flicked a switch in my brain that's like, oh, I think once Tisiphone, because we haven't been in a lot of like combat scenarios with Aaron. So once Tisiphone sees that our like shit aligns in like he is of my ability, like skill level, she's gonna be like,
hey,
we're gonna be friends now.
What's up?
So like, yeah, like identifying a relationship and saying like, this is something where my character would align with this. I think the same thing happened subconsciously with Prim and Laura. Like Prim was able to say, like Caitie, the player, was like, ooh, Prim would fit here as like this maternal figure. So she's going to saddle up with Laura. Like that's a relationship that makes sense. So look for relationships. If my character is this and this character is that, these fit nicely together or are opposites in a way that is interesting, or, you know, like that kind of a thing. And pull on that. Wow. Another one. 10 out of 10. Okay. I'm interested in exploring a different gender or sexuality with my character. How do I avoid being appropriative, tokenizing, or making it seem like I'm gently coming out?
So we've had this question for a while, and like I've noodled it a bit. I think like at the heart of it is like, my first thought is like, why do you want to explore this? Like what is interesting about exploring that other identity, and kind of like reflect on that a little bit. And after that, if you have friends or family that are like, that maybe represent some of these identities that you want to explore, I would like, if they're open to it, I would like consult them and talk with them about like their life experience and what their life is like. You don't have to carbon copy like your friend or family member, but if you're wanting to explore something like that, you kind of need someone who is that identity. Do your research, I think, is like a big thing. It's going to come across as appropriative and tokenizing personally if that's their entire personality, is that they are this one singular identity thing, and that's all that you make this character about. That quickly will become like, oh, it's a trope. Oh, it's like you're just the token gay bard or something like that. When your character is so much more than just their sexuality or just their gender expression or what have you. So yeah, I would say do your research, reflect on why it's interesting to explore some of these different identities. Because I don't want my the way I'm talking about this to sound like I'm discouraging anybody, because I'm absolutely not.
Mhm.
It's something that I personally like have explored in D&D, and
Mhm.
it can be very helpful, and it can
Mhm.
be very fun, and it can
Mhm.
be very exciting,
Mhm.
and a really cool learning experience.
Sure.
So yeah, do your research and don't be an ass.
Yeah. I think something that you can reference
Mhm.
is Critical Role has had a multitude of identities on their in their
Mhm.
campaigns,
Yeah.
and I don't claim to know what the cast members' identities are in
Yeah.
totality,
Yep.
but there have been same sex, like relationships across the party itself,
Mhm.
and people playing like Sam Riegel playing Veth, like playing genders that are not their own, things
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
Um, so like it is possible. And
Yeah.
as there is with any sort of like mainstream media, there
Mhm.
are people who I think fully agree with everything that Critical Role does or has done. Like I'm sure there
Sure.
are ways that they could do it better. But
Mhm.
in my opinion, I am one person, but in my opinion, I think they've done it all right job of doing those things. And to Soren's point, like none of those characters is just that aspect.
Mhm.
They contain multitudes and are well-rounded, interesting characters, and that is just a facet.
Mhm.
I do want to focus a little bit on
Mhm.
the less like it's not like less sensitive necessarily, but less I'm not sure what word I'm looking for. I want to
Mhm.
focus on I don't want it to seem like I'm gently coming out.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
So in that sense, you're wanting to play, for instance, let me put a topic on it. I want to play a character that is into women,
yeah. Mhm.
and I myself am not.
Mhm.
So how do I make it so that everyone's not like, are you trying to
You trying to tell us something?
tell us something? How do we avoid that? Or do we? Is that just a
Oh.
thing that has to happen?
I didn't realize you were asking me. I thought you were asking like everyone listening.
Yeah, how do we do that, everybody?
Hey, everybody, tell us right now.
Right now. Ready? All pause.
Ready, set. Did you do it?
Oh
Oh,
wow,
thank
you're
you.
good.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a
well.
really good perspective. Um,
Jesus.
I think literally it could be as simple as like your session 0, you're like, hey guys, she's gay. Cool. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to like get all too overly overthinky about it,
Yeah.
because if it's important to you to let your party know, then let them know.
Yeah.
And if it's not important to you, then I think you just need to manage your own emotions
Yeah.
and don't
I
assume that your party is gonna just think that you're coming out.
yeah, I think this just becomes a whether this is important to you or not. I think
Yeah.
that's maybe the core of it. Is if it is important that the group understand that this is something you're exploring, but not like on a personal, because we all know D&D
Yeah.
is therapy, like this is not
Hmm.
necessarily a personal thing.
Yeah.
If that is important that they know that, I would at session 0 say like, hey, I'm exploring this thing. I'm not trying to tell you anything. I want to see what
Yeah.
this is
I
like.
just think it's interesting.
Right. And
Hmm.
if it's not important to you, if that's not something that's worth
Don't worry about
saying,
it.
then just don't worry about it. And um I'm going to guess if you're playing with friends that your friends are just going to be like, all right, and move
Cool.
on. And if somebody's like really concerned or wants to like, hey, I noticed you're doing this thing. Do you want to talk about something? I'm here for you. Then maybe that's a good time to just be like, oh my gosh, I so sorry that I like made that seem like that was what I was trying to do. I am so good.
No.
I'm just exploring this thing.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't have to be that deep.
Mm-mm.
And when it comes to you're interested in exploring this different thing, this different identity,
Mhm.
doing your research so as to not stereotype is worthwhile. But in that same vein, I'm going to maybe assert that I don't think you have to feel like you have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to like be super, super careful. Like these identities exist all over the place and in different ways.
Yep.
And so it's okay if you get it a little wrong. I just want to say, like, I want research is important. Don't stereotype necessarily, but also don't walk on eggshells and explore the thing you want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the root. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
If it's something you would like to explore, do it, because I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Consult people of those identities if you can, and otherwise do research.
Yeah.
And don't turn them into a caricature.
Right.
Ta-da.
We did it. Okay. 2 more. What should you do if you are mid-campaign and you are not vibing with your character anymore?
I think that a very simple first step could be start changing your character while you're just playing, make different decisions, maybe just adjust some of the values. And I don't think this has to be go straight to your DM and figure it out. I think it can literally be as easy as make some different choices and see how they feel.
Yeah, I was going to say, this reminds me of that Am I the Asshole thing we did, where the character was like chaotic and actively making bad choices.
Yeah.
And we talked about like, maybe this is a turning point for this character, and they have a little bit of an intervention and figure out that this is not how they want to live anymore. Or maybe they do really want to live this way, and so they're going to leave the campaign because this no longer fits. You know, so I think for this question, that mentality applies. Like, maybe you can work with your DM and find some changes that will make your character more appealing to you. Or maybe it's time to retire the character and make a new one. Yeah. And both are like, okay. We also talked about, I forget if it was in that one or not. We also talked about like, if you want to kill off your character, you don't have to railroad anything, but you can let your DM know that like, hey, I'm not vibing with this character anymore, but I don't just want to leave. Like, I want like a finite end to their story. And here's kind of what I was thinking. And then like maybe work out something that's not railroady, but accomplishes the goal you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah.
Easy. Okay, last one.
Like, that's all I got on that one.
What are some ways to code switch into role playing if I'm not good at accents? So, hi, my name's Caitie. I don't do accents. And I tried to do an accent for a character and it worked, and then she died. And then I was gifted
and her accent went with her.
Yeah, I was gifted the opportunity to replay some events in her lifetime, much long after she had crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and I was unable to slip back into that accent, and so I just didn't. So what I would say to you is that it doesn't have to be an accent, but it is like a mindset. I slip into a mindset instead of an accent. Sometimes I pitch my voice up or down to give myself like a different vibe. So like, I'm not trying to do a British accent like Soren, because Soren can do it and I can't. But for Tiffany, I do try to like use the lower part of my voice more often. And I expressed at the beginning of making her wanting her to sound a little bit more like either breathy or have like more vocal fry, like she's a little more seductive. And that goes out the window when it's time to play. Because it's one thing to practice it on your own in your house.
Cool,
be like, this
fun.
is what I'm gonna do. And
this
then
is exactly who I am.
You're gonna get in front of your friends, and then you're gonna be like, well, I'd rather jump out this window than try to recreate that. So I would say, if manipulating your voice is hard, or makes you feel insecure,
And you don't wanna.
then don't.
Yeah.
And find a different thing that you can latch onto. That is, to use Soren's words that we said probably 800 times in this podcast, to put on your character's shoes. Find something else that you can latch onto that helps you sink into that character.
Yeah.
For Tisiphone, it is often like using the lower part of my voice in general, but then also, and I do this better some days than others, but she's a little mean. She's a little mean. She's a little guarded, but like not guarded like I don't want to talk to you. Guarded like I don't trust anybody, including you. So,
There's that.
yeah. She is willing to go like probably 3 more steps than the average person when it comes to getting what she needs to get. So like if we are trying to get, we haven't had this scenario, but for instance, if we were trying to get information out of somebody, she'd be chill, like tying them to a tree and punching them until they say something. Whereas I think other members in our party would be like, don't do that. Don't do that. So I would just like find something else to latch onto. I say that I'm not always good at that because I have had scenes where I've played Tisiphone as a little more silly than like serious and cold.
Yeah.
And so like people contain multitudes. She was feeling goofy that day. And also like I don't know, I'm having fun with my friends and so I forget kind of what I'm playing as sometimes. So
Yep.
I would just say don't hold yourself to any one specific and allow yourself something other than the voice to be your anchor.
I think something that you described, I think in the last episode we were recording, is like find like music that feels like your character and like listen to it before you go to session. Like listen to it on your drive over, bathe in it.
I think I've said this before that Tisiphone, so far the song that I've been using for her is Therefore I Am by Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of, if I'm really struggling to find her spot and I know we're about to be in a like role play heavy campaign or session, whatever, I might listen to that a few times and say like, okay, I'm not your friend. Right. And try to get into that vibe.
She's like, I'm nobody's friend.
But here's the problem. And I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but like sometimes I have done that. But then we have sit goof 'em ups for like 15 minutes before we start playing. And I lose that headspace. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's a good start for sure. But you might need to have like a phrase or like my flow sheet might act as like an anchor a little bit that I can like aesthetically look at and say like, okay, this is where I am. To just kind of help me like shift back into this other thing. Reading notes sometimes does that for me, like reading the notes from the last session, being able to say like, okay, right, we just did this crazy memory session thing and this is where she's sitting. I think the last thing Reese said to me was something about, he called them rats, but I forget what he said specifically. Because we had that like vision of like Baal and Bacala and Babao and Asmodeus and all that. And he was like, something about getting these rats. Let's kill these rats or something like that. And he said it in such a way like his voice got kind of gravelly. And I was like, oh, fuck, Reese means business. But like she would be on the same level as that. So like I might try to find those session moments and say like, okay, right, this is where we were at. This is what she was thinking, you know, like that kind of thing. Rapid fire. Does D&D have to be set in a medieval time period?
No.
We had a whole episode about it. In fact. So you can go listen to our other episode about game settings. We talked about settings that happen in space. We talked about settings that happen in like ancient times, libraries, storybooks.
And I tried to make a space mermaid.
Hated. Yeah. Yep. Oh, not
Not a
reverse
reverse
mermaid.
mermaid.
Space mermaid, right? In a tank that
But
floats
TJ, if you wouldn't
via
mind putting
rocket
the
packs.
reverse mermaid
Yeah.
on the screen,
Okay.
I would love that.
Which Critical Role character any campaign would your current character vibe with in the tavern? I think Tisiphone would vibe with either Yasha, Bo, or Caleb. I think she's a mighty nine girly. Or Vax. Sorry.
You're like, I'm so sorry, sweetheart.
Sorry. So sorry.
I think Lura would vibe with Percy DeRollo.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would vibe with Grog. And
nice.
And I think she would vibe with Fern.
Nice. Sure. Sure. Great. Which celebrity DM's table would you most like to sit in at and why? Okay, so my answer, what I want to say, and I know this is not the question, so I'm going to answer the question. It's all of them. But I'm going to answer the question. But I like all of them for different reasons, okay? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably Abria. I just think she's watching her DM EXU. She's very collaborative and helps. She's good at prompting. And like she at that EXU table, there were a couple of people who hadn't really played or hadn't played much, and she was very good at like helping them figure it out,
bringing them in.
And also she gets excited with you in a way that I think is fun. So Abria Iyengar.
Absolutely. I love that. I want to sit at Brennan Lee Mulligan's table so bad.
Doesn't? Holy
so
shit.
bad.
Yeah.
I want to role play at one of those tables.
Yeah.
So bad. I just love the breadth and depth of facets of like Brennan that you get to see while he DMs.
Mm-hmm.
The goof 'em ups are delightful to be sure, but like there's such a fun energy that comes from his DM style.
I think the three like top DMs, right? Matt Mercer, Brennan, and Abria, have a lot of similar qualities, which is why I think it was hard for me at first. I wanted to just say all of them because they all have different facets of kind of the same core, which is like this collaborative, interesting role-playing, enjoyable vibe, you know, like that whole thing. But they're just like slightly different flavors of each other, and each of them has slightly different strengths that are interesting. And I think as far as like the new player warmth thing that I said about Abria, I think that exists in Brennan, and I think that exists in Matt Mercer also.
Yeah.
So I think it would be hard to go wrong with those three specifically. So
I agree 100%. That's it for us this week. Thanks for spending time with us today, and thanks to Noah Trumbull for the use of our theme song. There's a link to his Instagram in the episode description, so be sure to give him a follow and stay up to date on his band and music.
If you are enjoying the show, I specifically, me this time, just me, probably also Soren, but me especially, would really appreciate it if you would leave us a review or like a comment or something to tell us how you like this that you are hearing or watching currently right now. You could also follow us wherever you get this kind of content. You could subscribe on the YouTube, or you could like literally follow the show on like Spotify. That would be pretty rad. And then you could also follow us on Facebook or Instagram because we post like little extra goodies over there, including when episodes drop. So you'll like be alerted on multiple platforms if you are subscribed, and then also follow us on social media. You'll get a couple different notifications that'll let you know that we've dropped an episode. Okay, Soren's telling me to wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Off she goes.
So we also want to hear from you if something came up in today's conversation that made you think, or you have a topic that you want to hear from us next. Please email us. Also, just to say hi, but please email us at chromaroses@gmail.com. we will do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. That is chromaroses@gmail.com, CHROMAROSES@gmail.com.
This has been Chromatic Roses. I'm Caitie.
And I'm Soren. Fight evil, love others.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.